Welcome friends. Today we are going to study two important terms, namely institutional climate and institutional culture. Now these terms have been borrowed from the field of business as well as industrial management. They use the term organizational climate and organizational culture, but the educational institution uses the term institutional climate, institutional culture. These terms, organizational climate and organizational culture, are the same when we use the term institutional climate and institutional culture. Now let us look at the concept of institutional climate. When we go into any institution, we will look around and find that they vary in physical structure, in facilities, and the interaction with different teachers as well as the principal. These are different from institution to institution, and therefore we get a particular feel. We get a particular tone, and this feel, this tone is known as the climate of an organization or an institutional climate. Now let us look at some of the definitions of institutional climate. We will look at some of the definitions of institutional climate. Taiguri in 1968 defines organizational climate as a relatively enduring quality of the internal environment that is experienced by its members, influences their behavior, and can be described in terms of the values of a particular set of characteristics of an organization. According to Schender and Cinder, in 1975, organizational climate is the summary perception which people have about an organization. It is thus a global expression of what an organization is. Litwin and Stringer, 1968, defines organizational climate as the perceived subjective effects of the formal system, the informal style of managers, and other important environmental factors on attitudes, beliefs, values, motivation of people who work in a particular organization. Halfon, 1966, opines that personality is to an individual what organizational climate is to an organization. Forehand and Gilmer in 1964 states that organizational climate is a set of characteristics that describes an organization and that distinguishes one organization from another, are relatively enduring over a period of time, influence the behavior of people in an organization. From the above definition, students, we can therefore conclude that organizational climate is the manifestation of behavior, values, and attitudes of the organization members towards the organization itself. These manifestations may be subtle or not so subtle. For example, in one institution, you find members of the institution very relaxed and informal, whereas in another institution, you might find them very stressed and their verbal expression are not in sync. we do not feel welcome in such an institution. Some institutions are formal, and whereas some of them are informal. This is what we call the climate of an organization. The institution where you feel welcome, you feel loved, you feel like being the members of the institution welcome you, you feel that climate of the institution is good. Whereas where you feel unwelcome, you feel that there is some sort of non-welcoming attitude, we can say that such a climate of the institution may not be conducive. Students, now let us look at the meaning and concept of organization culture, which we also call as institutional culture. In 1980, the word organizational culture was the concern of organizational behavior. The word culture has its etymological root in the word cultivation, that is, the process of utilizing and developing land, and this word is also used in the field of education, where the development process differs from institution to institution. Therefore, culture differs from state to state and country to country. Culture is an anthropological concept which is applicable to educational organization. It denotes a pattern of beliefs, values, norms, and behaviors learned from other members of the society. According to Keesing, 1958, culture refers to the totality of man's learned experience which is socially transmitted, or more broadest sense, it includes cultivated behavior, customs, actions, ideas, and man-made objects like artifacts. Culture is a symbolic integration of individual behavior in a large system. Let us look at some of the definitions of culture. Taylor, 1959, defines culture as a complex whole which includes knowledge, beliefs, arts, law, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of the society. Culture changes slowly but ensures stability and security in a society. Now you may ask, why culture in an organization? Why is there a need to study organizational culture? It is applicable to an organization because organization is a social system operating on a larger cultural context. Besides, members of the organization have their own beliefs, values, knowledge, norm, preferences. Now, when these personal characteristics interact with the organization, they form a social system, and thus a new unique culture enhances because the members of the organization interact with each other, and this is known as the organizational culture. Now let us look at some of the definition of organization culture. There is no widely accepted definition of the concept. Some definitions are very broad, while others are very specific. Deal and Kennedy, 1982, define organizational culture as the way we do things around here. This is an extremely broad definition. Now let us look at some specific definition. According to Campbell, Dunnett, Lawler and Wick, 1970, organization culture is concerned with how employees perceive the 6 basic characteristics: individual autonomy, structure, reward, consideration and conflict. Auchi, 1981, defines organizational culture as a set of symbols, ceremonies and myths that communicate the underlying values and beliefs that organization to its employees. Shen, 1985, defines it as a pattern of basic assumptions that given group has invented, discovered or developed in learning to cope with its problems of external adaptation and internal integration. Peters and Waterman, 1982, defines organizational culture as a dominant and coherent set of shared values conveyed by such symbolic means as stories, myths, legends, slogans, anecdotes and fairy tales. From the above definition, we can say that every organization has a distinct and unique culture. It represents a common perception shared by the members of the organization. The organization has a common code of conduct, set of values which are good, desirable, undesirable and bad, in which all the members of the organization has to follow. Therefore, the cultural characteristic of culture is relatively enduring over a period of time and relatively static due to the propensity to change. Organizational culture is also influenced by the external and internal environment of the organization, wherein the members of the organization interact. It is also influenced by the vision and mission of the institution. Now let us go a step further and find out why is institutional climate important. As I told you earlier, it is also known as organizational climate. Why do we need to find out the importance of an institutional climate? If we look at it, we can divide it broadly into 2 parts. It helps us to diagnose and also to suggest remedies. What does it help us to diagnose? It helps us to diagnose the climate of an institution, which is very important. Secondly, it also helps us to know the climate of an institution with respect to the leadership style. For example, if the leader is welcoming the teachers, the students with a smile, we come to know that the climate of that institution is good. It also helps us to know about the teacher's performance, the self-esteem, the way she communicates with each other, and her decision making. Depending upon the climate of the institution, so will be the teacher's performance. If the teacher's self-esteem is high, definitely the climate of the institution is helping her to raise her self-esteem. What about the students? Does their performance affect the climate of an organization? Definitely. If the students' performance is very good, that means they are given an opportunity to grow, to interact, to talk, to discuss, and therefore their performance is good. On the other hand, if you find that the students do not interact, they do not talk, they do not discuss, it means that the climate of the institution does not provide them opportunity to grow. So all this after diagnosing, what shall we do? Yes, if we find that the leadership style is not good, we can change the leader. If she's an authoritarian, if she's a leader who has a lot of authority and do not give her teachers to talk, she can be changed. Therefore, the leadership style is very important. A democratic leader will help an environment, a feeling of everybody to be participating in the discussion. And so the climate of the institution will be good. The teacher's performance also will change if the leader is a democratic leader, or she's a transformational leader or a transactional leader. This provides them opportunities and give them freedom to do and develop themselves in an institution. And this helps in bringing about a good climate of the organization. So therefore, the climate of the institution is very important to be studied. Now let us look at the dimensions of organizational climate. In a very broad sense, organizational climate has 4 major dimensions, namely ecology, milieu, social system, and culture. Now let us look at each one of them separately. What is ecology? As you rightly said, ecology refers to the size, the design, the facilities, and the technology of an organization. Coming to the milieu of the institution, it refers to everything that is related to people belonging to the institution. For example, the job satisfaction, the aspirations, the socio-economic condition, the teacher's performance, everything with related to the people of the institution. The social system refers to the organization and administrative structure. That is, what all activities are organized in that institution and how are they administered? How is the decision making? How is the communication pattern? And finally, we have the culture. The culture refers to the values, the belief, the attitude in that institution. And all these 4 dimensions, namely ecology, milieu, social system, and culture, are the dimensions of organizational climate. Now let us look at one of the most important tool for the dimension of institutional climate. This tool was given by Halfon and Croft. This tool measures the perceived behavior of an organizational member, namely teachers and principal. Under the teacher's behavior, there are four aspects, four dimensions that is to be catered. The first is disengagement. What do you mean by disengagement? That means you are not engaging yourself into any constructive work. They have no common goals. The teachers work, but they are just working with no common goals to be achieved. Hindrance. This is the other aspect of teachers' behavior. In hindrance, the teachers find the principal as a hindrance to them. They find that the principal is simply giving them routine work to be done without any purpose, so that they are kept busy. The third dimension is esprit, and that is morale. Morale is, if the teacher's morale is increased, the climate of the institution is good. And so, in this dimension, the teacher's behavior is that she works with vigor and pleasure. And the fourth dimension is intimacy. There is an intimate relationship between the teacher and the principal. And this closeness helps the climate of an organization to be very good. So these are the teacher behavior of an organizational climate. Now let us look at the second dimension of Halfon and Croft's organizational climate, and that is the principal's behavior. Here too it is categorized, or they have four dimensions, namely aloofness, production emphasis, thrust and consideration. Now let us look at each one of them. What do you mean by aloofness? By aloofness is to be away from people, and therefore the principal's behavior is to be away from the teachers or members of the organization. She does not mingle with them, does not interact with them easily. And then you will know what will be the climate of the organization. The next part is production emphasis. When you look at these words, it is very clear that the principal's behavior must be definitely dealing with production. She will emphasize on production, no matter what. So what does she do? She will keep monitoring and controlling the teacher's behavior. And therefore, she will focus on more of productivity and not bothering what the teacher is. The third aspect is trust. Trust is what the effort the principal makes for the improvement of the climate of the organization. She will move ahead the organization so that it grows. And finally, the fourth behavior of the principal is consideration. The very word itself says that the principal has humanity. She believes in humanity, and so she is considerate about her teachers and members of the institution. So we sum up principles behavior as aloofness, as production emphasis, trust and consideration. Another way of looking at organizational climate was developed by Stern, who was a psychologist and based his work on Murray's, whose concept in turn of need press was concerned with human personality. Murray, in his book on exploration in personality, 1938, postulated that personality is the product of dynamic interplay between need, both internal and external, and press, which is similar to environmental pressures that lead to adaptive behavior. Stern and others developed two questionnaires instruments to study the need press factors that were expected to influence development of climate in colleges. One of the instruments was the active index, AI, which dealt with the need of the individual, and the other was the CCI, that is the College Characteristic Index, which examined the organizational press as experienced by person in an organization. These tools measured observable factors of colleges such as staff and facilities, achievement standards, aspirations of students, extent of students' freedom and responsibilities, academic climate, and social life on the campus. Now let us look at Stern and Steinhoff's tool, which was adapted to the school from their tool of College Characteristic Index. This tool had two press. One was the development press and the second was the control press. The development press had four aspects: intellectual climate, academic achievement, practicalness, supportiveness, and orderliness. Intellectual climate dealt with the intellectual part of the person, that is, the intellectual activity. It was based on the scale of humanities, social sciences, ego achievement, exhibition, and change. Achievement standard, the very word says that this deals with the high level of achievement of the pupil. Schools high on this factor focuses on perseverance, hard work, and total day-to-day commitment of an institutional purpose. The third aspect is practicalness. The very word practical means it is nurtured. It is defined by practicalness and nurturance, and therefore it suggests the environmental dimensions of practically tempered with the aura of friendliness. The next part is supportiveness. This factor deals with the aspect of organizational environment that respects the integrity of a teacher as a person, and therefore this factor deals with how supportive the institution, the members of the institution are with regard to the teachers. And the last factor is orderliness. In this factor, everything has to be in order. There is a formal structure that one has to follow. Conformity to community pressures and an effort to maintain a proper institutional image is paramount. It is based on order, narcissism, adaptability, conjunctivity, deference, and hard avoidance. The next factor is control press. Under this, we have impulsive control. It implies that person is restricted. They are not allowed to do what they want, and therefore they are not allowed to express. There is no personal expression. It is based on work, prudishness, blame, placidity, and inferiority avoidance. Now let us look at a tool prepared by Litwin and Stringer in 1968 for measuring organizational climate. They had 6 dimensions in this tool. They were structure, responsibility, risk, rewards, warmth and support, and conflicts. Now let us look at each one of them. Let us look at the 6th dimension. The first is structure. Here we see the constraint that the workers go through in the organization, the rules, the regulation which they have to follow. The next is the responsibility. Here the feeling of I am the boss without anybody to be asked upon is looked into this dimension. Risk taking. Here whether the person in the institution is able to take risk. Rewards. The feeling of I getting a reward for my work is taken into consideration. The warmth and support. The feeling of warmth and support is liked by many of us in an organization. This dimension is catered to in warmth and support. And finally, the conflicts. The feeling that the management will accept decisions, discussion is what is looked into this dimension of conflicts. So in Litwin and Stringer's tool, we have 6 dimensions, namely structure, responsibility, risk, rewards, warmth and support, and finally conflicts. Now we will look at team building, the nature of organizational group and group processes. We will look at it from 3 aspects. What is a team, teamwork, team building. So what is a team? When do we say that it is a team? A team, when they work in togetherness for a particular purpose. For example, you see a cricket team. They have a common goal. So as teachers also, when we work into a team, we work for a common goal. And that work, what we do, is team work. Now the members of the team have different attitude, aptitudes, ability, capability, capacity. So when the team works, you will find that each one comes out with their attitude, ability, capability, and this helps in the effectiveness of the teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. That is what one of the person rightly said. And if we want the teamwork, if we require the team to work efficiently, we have to bring them together to work in cohesiveness. This will help to achieve our dream. So then comes the next question, that if team and teamwork is important, then what about team building? Is it important for us to build a team? Is it important for the principal or the management to build teams? And why is it important? Team building is very essential, very vital for the effectiveness of the work. Now, what do you mean by team building? When there is a particular work at hand, the members are chosen for a particular job. So what happens is in that if there are a group of people doing a particular job, each one of them will give their best in the success of the job. Because they are members of the group, they want to contribute and give their best. Each one of them has different talents. Some may be good at communication skill, some may be good at drawing, some may be good at decision making. And when all of this attitude, the abilities come out together, that is what the principal is doing, building up a team. She is allowing them to grow together, encouraging them to be together, encouraging them to be united together, and that what makes the effectiveness of the organizational climate. Now, why is team building important? Team building is important because when you build a team, the members of the team come together. When they come together for a common cause, they exhibit qualities of love, consideration among the members of the team, unity, cooperation, and they work cohesively, they work in togetherness and see the success of the team. They also see that the struggle which the team is putting in for a work is effective and capable. There is also values like sympathy, empathy generated when we do team building. We also feel and sense people who cannot talk, when they are in a team, come out together, come and express themselves. We see members of the team very shy. They do not want to talk, did not want to contribute when they are alone. But in a team, they come out and they shine. So therefore, for the success, the climatic success of an organization, the principal must build teams for the cohesiveness, for the unity, for the success of any work she endeavors. Thank you.